Snowdonia, for our American friends who don't know where Snowdonia is an absolutely beautiful part of the world in the Welsh countryside with a very high mountain that you can go up in a train, and it features an absolutely incredible weather system. Mr. Tony Boydell here hasn't had anything else to do than inventing a whole game around that concept, and it looks absolutely brilliant. This is a pretty final prototype, I would say, because it looks pretty polished.
Yeah, we're taking, well no, the rules are set now. I'm absolutely not changing any rules at all.
You heard that?
But we are taking a look at just some elements of the graphics, just to make sure people here can tell us if they think, oh, I'd love to see the top of the mountain, or these are too big, or whatever, you know, just for clarity. Okay. I mean, I banged on a few times in my blog in the past about games not having clear information and getting kicked for it. So the last thing I want to do is have a game that doesn't have clear information on it. So
okay, so clearly inform us. What's a Snowdonia all about?
It's a worker placement game which happens to have a railway in it. It's not a railway game. Okay, and the idea is that you'll have a couple of workers that represent your little team of navvies,
right,
and your job is to try and get the most reputation from building an element of this railway. It's just the one railway. It starts at Llanberis, and you work your way up the mountain till you get to the peak. So you want to try and score the most points. It's a VP-based game, and you do that by participating in various elements of the railway. So you can get points for digging up rubble, so clearing the way up the mountain. You can get points for building stations along the way, or in fact bits of the stations. There's lots and lots of bits of stations to build. You get a lot of points for building track, and all the things that you do you combine with endgame scoring to maximise your points and get the most points over everybody else.
So it's a competitive game?
Absolutely.
How do people compete?
Okay, well, as a worker placement game you have a number of workers, and the round starts with each player, starting with the start player, placing one of their workers on one of the action spaces, and there are 7 action spaces. Now when you place your piece you can choose any of the zones within it, so you can go last if you want to in phase A, or you can go first in the building space if you want to. So you decide, and in fact at certain points in the game it is quite important that you want to go later in certain actions, because of the way that some of the points gaining can work. Once everybody has placed their actions, you resolve the actions. Now the bonus cards that you collect during the game, through one of the actions, allow you to modify actions that you take. So you have some card play before you resolve each of the specific action spaces. The spaces are stockyard. This allows you to collect resources from the stockyard. Coal is good for powering trains, which are effectively extra workers that you can buy. Stone is great for building elements of the stations themselves, and iron ore is what you need to convert to pieces of track to then put down as railway up the mountain. So stockyard is going to collect these resources. Every person that you send there, when it comes to your resolution turn, you take 3 pieces of something. Okay. If you're the last person to take something from the stockyard, the final space, you also get the start player marker as well. So sometimes people will go there and actually not get anything, but they want the start player marker for various reasons. It's not very efficient, but sometimes you have to do what you have to do. The second action space is excavation, and this is taking these little rubbly pieces off the cards. You start at the bottom of the mountain and you take the rubble off all the way up. Now rubble is important because on its own, when you dig it up, you keep it in front of you and you can trade it in for points at the end of the game. So you might have a bonus card that says if you've taken 16 pieces of rubble off the board, you get 21 points. That's a nice score to get just off that. So sometimes all you'll do is take enough to get those bonus card points. If you excavate through elements of the station, you can also get points if you're the person who clears the last cube out of a particular element. So this is why sometimes the sequence is important, that you want to be the person that takes the last rubble out of a space. Now the other thing about the rubble is that we can't do anything with these stations until we've at least given ourselves a way of getting up the mountain. At the start of the game, we have a rough mountainous terrain, so we have to dig up enough of a donkey track to at least get to these sites where we want to build things. So I can't do things in this station, which is 2 viaducts, or over here at Hebron, until all of the rubble has been taken off up to that point.
So basically you cannot just jump ahead? And
no, you can't decide to start building stuff at the summit because you've got no way of getting anybody up there.
Sounds credible enough.
The third action choice is called the works, and this is where you convert Generally, you'll use it to convert the iron ore that you've collected into pieces of iron bar, the track that you will lay.
Yep.
You can also use it if you want to. If you're not interested in getting bonuses for rubble, you can convert pieces of rubble into stone. So if you decide that actually I'm not going to get my excavation bonus, but I want to build a few more things, I'll trade those in using the works action to do that.
Okay.
Now, like all worker placement games, there aren't enough spaces in a lot of these actions for everybody to have a go. So you have to decide which actions you want to do first.
Okay.
So you have to watch out for sort of timing issues. I think I'll go there to convert some rubble, but I haven't actually got any rubble yet, or I haven't got any iron yet. So you have to make sure you don't get stiffed out of action spaces.
So you have to be very careful in how you manage your resources.
Yeah, I mean, you have to watch what the other players are doing. You also have to watch what the game is doing as well, and what the weather's going to be like, but I'll come to that in a minute.
Actually, yes, please, because I'm very curious.
I'll come back to that, because I'll tell you the actions and we'll work around. The next action is laying track. That's simply, you hand in some track pieces and you turn over the track cards. The track cards have a not cleared out yet side, so this has 3 pieces of rubble on it at the start of the game.
Yep.
Once you lay track on it, you turn it over and you put your little marker in that space, if I take one of mine, to show that you did that piece of track, and it's worth 3 points at the end of the game. There's a slight variation in the value of those. So again, you want to lay track on the ones that are worth 4 and 5, not the ones that are worth 2 and 3.
Yeah.
The next action is build. Build's very important. Build allows you to trade in stone you've collected, or iron bars in some cases for some of the requirements, to put your marker on bits of stations. But you can also build trains with this action, and trains cost iron, so you need iron bars for those as well. But trains can only be built when the game says that you can build them. So this is called the event track, and I'll come back to that, but white cubes come out of the bag along with the general resources, and they will cause the game to do things. And one of the early events is the game says you can now start buying trains. So you can't buy a train from the very off, and there are a whole variety of trains along the bottom, and I'll come to those in a minute. So that's building something here, or it's building a train. You can only have one train at a time. The F space is the office. This is one of the most important spaces, because this allows you to pick one of these 3 available cards and take it into your own personal supply.
Okay.
Bonus cards give you an end game bonus and an in-game bonus, a one-off effect. So this one says at the end of the game you get 2 victory points for every coal that you've collected and not used. The in-game bonus is slightly more complicated. It's move your surveyor 1 space up the mountain. The surveyor is one of your workers, one of your 3 major workers, and all he does is walk his way up the mountain if you want him to. And there's an action to do that up here. So this card gives you a free move up the mountain with your surveyor, but it also gives you an end-game bonus. So you might want to do that because you want to walk your guy up the mountain and get lots of points, and also capitalise on something like a coal bonus. So you pick the card that you want. Now these spaces are very restricted. There's never more than 2 spaces in the office. And you can't win the game without bonus cards. Because you have to fulfil these bonuses to get lots more points.
Yeah. So this is very disputed.
This is often, people will often go here at the detriment of their doing anything else because they absolutely want one of the cards that's available. There's a whole variety of things related to the actions that you do, and they modify them in a slightly better way.
Okay.
So this is a more complicated endgame bonus. It's got 4 spades on it and 2 track, and that says if you could have completed 4 bits of rubble excavation and show that you've completed 2 separate bits of track, you get 18 extra points, in addition to any other points you might have got from doing those actions in the first place. So that's the office, very important. And the surveyor, as I said, is move your guy 1 station up the mountain. The further up the mountain he is at the end of the game, the more points that he gets. If you get into the top, he's worth 21 points. Okay. So that's quite a nice thing to do. Often when the weather is really bad and you don't want to do anything else, you'll send your surveyor a little bit further up the mountain.
It sounds like there are several strategies for people to collect points, so it's not just one way to play the game.
No, it depends what trains come out. You might want to go a route that's simply fulfilling excavation-related bonuses and get a train that assists you with that. Other times you want to get track bonuses, because track bonuses are the most lucrative, but they're harder to get, harder to fulfill. So if you complete 5 bits of track, that's worth 40 points at the end of the game. But that's a hard one to do, especially in a sort of 3, 4 and 5 player game where everybody's trying to get a little bit of this and a little bit of that.
And can be an awful lot of backstabbing going on.
Yes, people sneak in there, and some of the bonus cards allow you to jump in and do certain things.
That sounds like a plan to me.
And the key thing is, though, that everybody gets to see what bonus cards you've collected. So there's no surprises about what they might do to you later on in the game. So if I've taken a card that gives me lots of extra excavation, then everybody should be able to see that I can do that. And when I've used that card, they'll know that it's now spent and I can't do it again. So you have to keep an eye on what people have collected and what they might be doing next.
Okay. The weather. I want to know about the weather.
Okay, well this little track here,
Yep.
the two actions, excavate and laying of track, are based on, the rate that you work them are based on this little track system here. And this track system goes up and down depending on how good or bad the weather's been. So in the start of the game, if I lay track, each one of my guys can put one piece of track down. So if I put both my guys in there, I can complete 2 bits of track, providing all the rubble's been taken off those spaces. If it's been fantastic weather, when I send my guy to do some excavation, he digs up 4 pieces of rubble. If the weather's been absolutely terrible, he'll be digging up one piece of rubble, which generally is not a good thing to go for. It's a very inefficient action.
So you have to control whether you are at what point you want to do your digging or when you don't want to.
Yeah, you need to watch what the weather's going to do. If you buy the train that gives you extra excavation capability, then you don't care what the weather's going to be like, because it's always good for you. But you've got to watch what's going on.
Yeah, but then on the other hand, you were mentioning earlier how at some points getting the last piece of rubble from a car could be interesting.
Yes,
so even if you can just get the one,
just the one,
it might
be the one that gets. Yeah, it might be the one that gets you a bonus.
Exactly.
Or it might be the one that gives you the end game bonus that you need. If you've got 15 and you need a 16th for the 21 points, then that's an action well worth doing.
So it might be that it will not be convenient for another player to use the weather system, but it might be convenient for you at any given point in the game.
Exactly. So the weather is calculated based on these bonus cards. At the end of a round, the leftmost card here is thrown away. Everything else shuffles down.
And you get another one.
We get a new one to replenish, and then we look at the card that's revealed on the top of the stack, and that tells us what the weather's going to be like in a couple of rounds from now. So we're going to be rainy a bit later on. Once we've started the next round, we take a look at the weather as it currently is. Sun means you add 2 to your excavation and 1 to your laying of track. The sun's come out, everybody's really keen to work. So that, in the next round, we've got excellent excavation and excellent laying of track. If we had this situation, if the fog was the next piece of weather to come out, fog stops all laying of track and all excavation completely. It doesn't affect the rates, so the next turn, these will get better or worse depending on rain or sun, but this turn nobody can do those actions in those 2 spaces. They're completely closed off for the round.
Okay.
So again, you've got to watch out for fog, because if you're timing your game to do that lovely bit of excavation and suddenly you're caught out by the fog, you've got to wait another round.
How many times have you been to Snowdonia to actually find out all these things?
Well, Wikipedia is your friend. I did go as a young man, but no, I've lived in Wales for a lot of my young life, so I know what the weather's like. I know exactly what the weather's like. It's all beautiful all the same. So that's how the weather is influenced by the kind of the randomness of the cards coming out. So it's a pseudo-random system, but you do have 2 turns of information, so you have to kind of plan what's going on. And that, obviously, this kind of information determines whether you want to get the start player urgently, because you want to do something before anybody else. At the end of the round, as I say, we do all of that replenishment. We then put more things into the stockyard. We take a number of cubes out of the bag, and they'll go onto the appropriate. Now, there are generally, for 3 players and above, there are 5 white cubes in the bag. And the number of cubes generally is adjusted according to the number of players. But when a white cube comes out, it takes up a space, and then each of these spaces means something. So a spade means the game will do an excavation action, and it'll do it at the rate that we've currently got here. But the game is slightly more efficient than players at digging, and that means it'll take off 4 spaces worth of stuff. So it would take that one, that one, that one, and that one as well. And the white cube stays there. The next time white cubes come out as part of replenishment, the second one is you can buy a train. The third one is the game will lay track at the current rate. So if this is a situation, 4 and 2, when the white cube comes out for that, the game will automatically finish those. So no markers go on there at all. The game has done those bits
for you.
Now, I didn't tell you at the start how the game finishes. The game finishes when this has got a piece of track on it. So the last space has got a piece of track. So as you can see, if you do nothing, if you hoard things, more cubes come out, and more white cubes keep going back in the bag and doing this stuff.
But you get less points.
You get less points. Now, eventually, if I can find the last white cube, when a 4th cube comes out here, the game will finish the earliest station, so nobody else can do anything in that station. So regardless of how many empty spaces there are, the game has finished that part of the game for you. Those 3 go back in the bag to be coming out again later on. And as the game progresses, it'll do a bit more excavation, do a bit more track laying. This one here is special. If you've bought a train, you have to pay 1 bar as an upkeep. If you don't, then you lose your train. So sometimes people will buy a train here, and then unlucky 3 white cubes come out, and suddenly the game does a lot of stuff, and they've lost the train. So you've kind of got to hedge your bets on that.
Yeah, you have to be careful. Right, to start wrapping it up, when is this game going to be out and about to purchase?
Well, the aim is it's going to be out at Essen Spiel.
Okay, 2012.
2012. As you may have heard, Lookout Games are producing it with us, which is absolutely fantastic. It's a real privilege to work with the guys there, especially as my favourite game of all time, apart from Snowdonia, is Agricola.
Yes.
So it's a great honour, and I'm very, very excited about it.
Well, I think everybody's going to be wishing you best of luck. I think that should be doing incredibly, incredibly well. If you are out there and you come from Wales, or you have a family in Wales, or you have been to Wales,
Or you've got 40 spare euros.
You have to buy this game. This game should become the Welsh national game as soon as it comes out.
I think there's a lot of rugby players that'll take issue with that. And, you can sort that one out. I think I won't do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.